Leadership means moving a group of people or a task to reach the goal. It's when you believe in something, or when you hear God's command to do something enough, and it takes a group of people, you want to lead them towards that goal and get something accomplished. So what leadership means to me is not necessarily being number one or the most powerful or being correct. That's not the point. The point is accomplishing whatever it is that you're trying to do, and putting people in the right spot according to their giftings and their skills and their abilities and their personality and all those different factors to work together and accomplish that goal. Leadership is discerning, finding out your goals, discerning how you're going to get there, communicating that, and getting everybody to work together as a team.
For me, being a leader is someone who not only empowers people, but is also able to cast vision and bring the best out of who they are. The best way, I think, to approach that is to first to get to know who they are, what their skills and gifts are. So getting to know them personally, then that allows you to be able to guide them and direct them, because no one, in my opinion, really will follow someone until you show interest in who they are as a person.
You have to be able to cast a vision for your team and to be able to interact and have relationships with your team and just get to know everyone you're working with and work alongside them.
Leadership implies that there's a journey there. It's not just directing tasks. It's not just telling people what to do, it's bringing them somewhere and leading them to it.
I think the biggest key of being a leader is being an example. But it is a lot deeper than that. You also need to really be a shepherd, be a friend, and spend a lot of time developing relationships. It's hard to get the best out of somebody else if you can't model it and also care for them at the same time.
I don't know what my leadership style is. I think it's multiple styles. I think part of my leadership style is to be a servant leader. To me, just getting into the trenches and working alongside my team is important to me.
My leadership style would be a lot more situational and, in that sense, taking people where they're at and moving them to the next step along. If it's someone that's brand new on the team, that can mean just finding them a spot where they're comfortable, where they're doing well and thriving. If it's someone that, like myself, when I showed up, I was a front of house engineer, and a lot of what I had to learn was just how Hillsong worked and what they wanted from the services, stuff like that, the ins and outs of how a service worked and the culture of the church, but you don't need to reteach them the task. So it's really just finding where they're at and what the next step is to better them as a team member and as a person in general.
Because I am a stickler for rules and organization, I have a bit of an authoritative, but then I also like a democratic feel, so that I'm not the only one making those decisions. Because the best decisions usually are made with more than one person making those decisions, because different points of view, different opinions is always going to make for a better environment, better team, better project.
I would say versatile. I really do go just about everywhere when it comes to that. Depending on the situation, being that my field is so broad, being that I'm in lighting, I do spend some time in audio and video, I come across a wide variety of personalities, a lot of definitely introverted individuals, and a lot of extroverts as well. And I need to change the way that I lead for each group of people that I interact with.
Part of being a steward leader is to help your team find where they fit best and to help them learn how they can use their gifts that God has given them. It's also important for a steward leader to connect with their team and just be a part of the team.
From my experience, being a steward leader is really being a friend, being a family member of the teams that you're working with. You can't be hands-off, you have to be hands-on. So if I ask somebody to do something or to improve what they're doing, I need to have the experience to also be willing to put it in a way that lets them know I care for them and I'm trying to draw the best out of them, not simply barking demands.
Steward leadership is, as we talk about stewarding what we have or what God's given us, it's the same thing. It's not just directing people to do things, it's taking a look at what resources, whether that be budget, people, equipment, things like that, and using them to their fullest potential. Instead of just putting someone in a task or in a role, find out what they're really good at. You may not want them as a stage manager if they're terrible at organization, but they may have a great ear for sound, or they may be great with working with people or something like that. So just getting to know the people on your team, where they fit, taking a look at what you need to spend budget on or what you don't, and maybe just taking the extra 10 minutes to price out something, stuff like that, that is actually using the best of whatever resources you've been given, so you're not wasting people's energy or money or things like that.
When I was early on in junior high and high school, I always had an interest in production, running sound during church events, or just doing as much as I could with the tech ministry. So it started at a very young age and then just continued to grow and get knowledge. But then after I was done with my undergraduate, I wanted to be a youth pastor, but then found over the time doing my internship in youth ministry, as well as the master's classes, that I liked the back end of production significantly more than that. So I just quickly changed gears and was able to work in many different companies outside of church, and then decided to go back into the church about 6 or 7 years ago.
I got started coming from a youth ministry, where I was actually a youth pastor for over a decade, and decided that working with inanimate objects is a lot less stressful than working with people. So I switched over into media ministries. I actually enjoy working with technology, all the gizmos, flashy lights, expensive toys, and I realized it was time to make the switch when I started spending more time building graphics and videos for my teaching than I actually was studying the Bible. And so that's how I got started in technical arts, and I really enjoy it, and actually the Lord's blessed me quite a bit.
In my previous life, I was a hip-hop head and I was a rapper. So my experience was up on stage doing shows. So I had some audio experience, I did a lot of studio work, a little understanding of lighting and some of those other elements. When I started to attend this church, I had a meeting with the senior pastor at the time and let him know my heart for tech and my background and experience. And he introduced me to, at the time, the producer. And after having a long conversation and sharing my heart and experience with him, I was made aware that there was a role as the production assistant available, and that I should consider it and pray about it. So I did eventually submit a resume, and within a month or so after that, I was hired on as the production assistant. At the time, that meant mostly lighting and a lot of other small tasks that helped me develop to the role that I'm in now, but it took about 1.5 years before I truly stepped into the full-time role of being the technical coordinator and truly overseeing all of these other technical ministries as well.